And now, everyone, it is now time. We are capping this episode off with the grand finale. And for this finale, we are going to get back to a story, like, honestly, one of the most talked about series of this year so far, which is Quiet on Set. Now, you think that it's all over now. Like, all the episodes have officially aired, including the bonus 5th episode. Everybody had their discussion piece. We've all talked about it. And that now we feel like there is more justice that is being served to the victims that were once child actors at Nickelodeon, including Drake Bell. So, in that regards, okay, we can finally move on, and hopefully there will be a brighter future, and bringing, and like now we highlighted a serious problem when it comes to child actors, that the issue can be more addressed. But hold on, though, we're not done yet, because now there is a new chapter that is coming on, and one that is honestly, well, I think the best way to say it is that it is the most surprising and not surprising at the same time story that we got from last week. And what it is, folks, is of course the revenge of Dan Schneider. Yes, folks, it has been revealed that Dan Schneider is gonna go and file a lawsuit against the producers of Quiet on Set, specifically for defamation, in which he is going to go and sue Warner Brothers, Maxim Productions, Sony Pictures, producer Mary Robertson, and Emma Schwartz. And he wanted to go, and you probably do recall that previously when we talked about Dan Schneider, he actually released a 19-minute apology video on his own channel in which most people just laughed it off. Like just about everyone saw through his apology that it was completely manufactured, it was all fake, and no one was buying it. Like, now we all know about the things that he has done within those productions that he would go and produce, like All That, or The Amanda Show, or iCarly, or Zoe 101, and stuff like that. And in that regards, even if his apology was genuine, nobody is going to go out and actually accept it. So I guess now it is time for Plan B, and to go and do a defamation lawsuit against Quiet on Set. And reading from my source here on Deadline, by the way, in which it is stated right over here, now, Schneider wants the series to be held accountable too. In the lawsuit, the one-time hitmaker called the series a hit job that destroyed his legacy and reputation. The limited series that was a rating boon for Investigation Discovery, or is it Investigation Discovery? Yeah, okay, yes, that's what the channel is called. Anyways, did reveal how two child sexual abusers did work on his show. Dialogue coach Brian Peck and former production assistant Jason Handy. But Schneider claims the suit that he had no knowledge of their abuse was not complicit in their abuse. No doubt defendants will endeavor to obfuscate what this lawsuit is about by pointing out that what they did get right, and Schneider will be the first to admit that some of what they said are true. At times, he was blind to the pain that some of his behaviors caused certain colleagues, subordinates, and cast members. He will regret and atone for this behavior for the rest of his life. But one thing he's not, and the one thing that will forever mar his reputation, both past and present, is a child sexual abuser. We also got a comment from Dan Schneider himself, in which he stated, "Recently, the docuseries Quiet on Set highlighted mistakes I made and poor judgment I exhibited during my time at Nickelodeon, most of which happened decades ago during my early career as a producer, working on shows for Tolan Robbins Productions. There is no doubt that I was sometimes a bad leader. I am sincerely apologetic and regretful for that behavior, and I will continue to take accountability for it. Boy, where the fridge do I begin with all this? Where do I begin with what Dan Schneider is trying to do? Okay, I think first and foremost, it is safe to say that the apology that he tried to do, that's pretty much thrown out the window. In fact, I would even say it is crazy that he is trying to do this defamation lawsuit while at the same time still trying to say that he's sorry and that he feels like he should be held accountable for that. Like, he's still trying to do all that thing. What the fridge is it, Dan? Are you sorry for it, or are they lying about you? Because honestly, this is honestly very conflicting. And this is a case where actions speak louder than words. If you really do feel that you are sorry for the things that you have done and that that you should be held accountable for your actions, then why the fridge are you even doing this lawsuit in the first place? Why are you even suing for defamation? It feels like you're sending out very conflicting messages over here. That are like, you even admitted, like, even in the lawsuit, it has stated that the things that Quiet on Set has stated is actually true. You know, they admitted that even towards the criticisms about Dan Schneider, that they are actually legitimate. And yet you want to go and sue them for defamation. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Again, which one is it, Dan? Should you be held accountable? Or do you want to sue them for defamation? Because you cannot freaking do both. You know, it feels absolutely backwards. And honestly, it feels like we cannot freaking trust what you would go and say right over here. And number two, by the way, this is also the second thing that is absolutely stupid. But apparently the reason why Dan Schneider wants to go and sue Quiet on Set is because he's accusing the documentary for portraying him as a child sexual abuser, a pedo, if you will. And if you have actually seen the documentary, that is not the case whatsoever. They have clarified that the people who have committed the worst actions are not from Dan Schneider. It's from the people like Brian Peck and Jason Handy and that third guy. Like, those are the people who are, those are the people who are like the absolute worst. But with that said, though, that doesn't mean that Dan Schneider is not the bad guy. That doesn't mean that he should not be held accountable for what he has done. That doesn't mean what he has done is wrong. Because honestly, what Dan Schneider is doing is like those pathetic arguments when it comes to defending John Lasseter. I have seen a few of those people who to this day would still try to defend John Lasseter by saying that, well, yeah, some of the things he has done is wrong, but hey, at least he's not Harvey Weinstein. So, I mean, you shouldn't be too harsh about it. Yeah, but like, okay, maybe he didn't commit like some of the worst actions like John Kay or Harvey Weinstein or Chris Savino or whatever. But that doesn't mean that John Lasseter's behavior during his time at Pixar and Disney is okay. That doesn't mean that at all. Because the thing is, John Lasseter, what his actions have done still makes him count as a sexual predator. Like, he was committing predatory actions towards those young women. And allegedly, he is still brewing that toxicity. Like, I don't know if it's like any of the sexual harassment stuff, but a lot of the other toxicity that he has enabled at Pixar and Disney, he is still doing at Skydance Animation to this day. That makes it an absolute hellhole to go and work with. So in that regards, like with that failed argument that John Lasseter is doing, it looks like Dan Schneider is trying to do that for himself. And again, nobody accused him of actually being a child sexual predator. We know he's not the one who is committing the worst acts. But that doesn't mean that the things that he has done during his time at Nickelodeon is absolutely wrong. The way that he was being a complete misogynist towards his female workers. The way that he is brewing that toxic work environment when positioned as the leader of those shows. The way, and especially the way that he would go and make these creepy gags. Like, maybe he's not a pedo, but he is an absolute creep, especially with the kind of humor that he would go and deliver towards, well, not towards, but that he would go and have those young child stars to go and do that really feel awkward and wrong, and why it feels like it's kind of difficult to go back and rewatch those shows like All That and The Amanda Show and Zoe 101. It just makes things extremely awkward right now. So in that regards, yeah, you don't like I don't even, like, honestly, I just want to say, I don't even know where Dan Schneider is really coming from. Like, not the documentary never stated that you were one of the sexual predators, but you did provide an environment that kind of enables that you're kind of defending. Well, not maybe defending is too harsh of a word, but that you are in a place where you did build a safe space for those kinds of child sexual predators, especially with the kind of humor that you would keep on delivering again and again. Of course, nobody would go and expect it. It's just part of the, like it would just feel like part of the course in the job. So of course, like, you're just like, regardless if you know it or not, the fact that you are even doing it and feeding material for those predators is still absolutely wrong. So yes, Dan, maybe you're not a child sexual predator, but you are a misogynist and a creep. And that is enough to go and have your reputation be ruined, to take everything that you have and have that taken away and replace that with nothing but shame. Excuse me for a sec. I just need to cough a little bit. Okay, just need to go and clear my throat over there. But it is honestly very interesting, though, just looking at this lawsuit of what Dan Schneider is trying to do, like taking action, like to go against Quiet on Set. Like, even though he would say that he's not a predator, these are legitimate predatory actions. This is something that a predator would go and do, and that is to desperately avoid accountability to his actions. Because right now, like, we all know for a fact that like these things, animation fans and Nickelodeon fans, we've known this for quite some time. Especially some people have even stated that the first time that they have heard about like the creepiness of Dan Schneider was with the Blame It on Jorge video on YouTube that he uploaded years ago. This is something that many fans have been very well aware of, and then suddenly with Quiet on Set, now it's put into a massive spotlight in which, yes, now it is the time that karma and justice would be faced against Dan Schneider. And yet, even though the apology did not work out, he is still that's the biggest thing that I feel like his actions are trying to say here, more so than his words that's filled with apology and wanting to accept accountability. Nah, man, you don't want to accept accountability. That's exactly the thing you want to go and try to dodge. And even like this lawsuit here, I would even say this is a hit piece. This is not to go and reclaim his reputation. This is not to go and save his name, but to go and damage the accuser, to go and attack those who did hold him accountable, to go and attack those who did call him out, to make them look bad, to destroy their reputation in order to go and reclaim his. That's the whole point of this lawsuit. And I know this because I have seen this done, and it's slowly becoming a bit more of a thing with people who have this abusive and predatory mindset. In fact, there is actually one example that I can think of that I feel like has some very strong parallels to what Dan Schneider is doing with this lawsuit. And you probably know which one that I am talking about. And on a side note, yeah, and some people have even mentioned that, like, there's even the book by Jeanette McCurdy in which she didn't directly call him out, but she did leave some obvious clues in terms of who would go and actually like she's referring to as the abusive producer. So even she called him out before. But back to what I was talking about, yes, there is another person that I feel like Dan Schneider is very similar to. Someone who at what point is an icon in the entertainment industry, especially in the genre that he was once in. And his predatory actions were known for a few years, but it wasn't until that one instance that was really put onto the spotlight. Everybody called him out on it, especially his victims. And then, even though he tried to apologize, he would then go and immediately do a defamation lawsuit that ended disastrously for him, where now he owes hundreds of millions of dollars to the defendants he would try to go and sue. And you know who I'm talking about? It is indeed Vic Mignogna. I feel like a lot of what Dan Schneider is doing with his lawsuit, it feels very similar to what Vic Mignogna tried to go and do against Funimation and some of his victims like Monica Rial and Jamie Markey. The only thing that I feel like is missing is that Dan Schneider doesn't have those right-wing grifters who are trying to take advantage and capitalize on his downfall. I think that's the only thing that really is missing, where they try to go and pretend to support Dan Schneider, to go and save Dan Schneider or say that he's innocent or whatever. And Vic Mignogna is not the only person who would go and do so. Recently, we have seen some other examples. One person even brought up another great example, is actually Illuminati, where she tried to go and do the same thing. Where, like, I'm sure we have all known about her story. Like, we all know about the story with how Illuminati, like, she has a history of plagiarism and is very abusive towards her editors, towards the people who work for her, and even those that she went into a relationship with. And she would even go and threaten them with a defamation, knowing that those people have absolutely nothing, that they cannot fight back in order to make things go her way. So yes, that is another example of a predatory and abusive person who would try to use a defamation lawsuit. And even another example I could think of is Elon Musk. This is another abusive and predatory person who does try to do defamation lawsuits in order to make things go his way. Like, there's even one great example where there was a media outlet that actually called him out on the fact that he would use Twitter in order to enable not just hate speech, but especially anti-Semitism. That he would even go as far as to go and promote anti-Semitism. And it's one of the biggest examples of how Elon Musk and all his fans are far more anti-Semitic than what people claim the college protesters are when they're supporting Palestine. So in that regards, we saw a whole bunch of advertisers just bail out from Twitter not to be associated with Elon's brand of anti-Semitism. And in response, Elon tried to go and do a defamation lawsuit on that media outlet. Now, thankfully, the media outlet did win the case. Like, the judge just flat out rejected it because, well, the media outlet is perfectly safe, and like they did everything they did everything legally because it is freedom of speech, ironically enough, for Elon Musk. But still, though, Elon wanted revenge for being held accountable to his actions. And as the predatory abuser that he is, he tried to use defamation lawsuits in order to make things go his way and to hurt people who called him out. So rather it be people like Illuminati, Elon Musk, Vic Mignogna, or even Dan Schneider here, this is the result of a predator. This is an abusive person who desperately wants to go and avoid any consequences to his actions. And this right over here, I feel like Dan Schneider is doing a massive disservice to himself. he is further justifying what Quiet on Set is trying to do, or what Quiet on Set is trying to say about him. And the more he is trying to take action in order to escape accountability, the more he is justifying what the allegations are against him are. And it shows more and more that, yes, the victims are actually correct about Dan Schneider's behavior, that he is a misogynist, that he is a creep, that he is an abusive tyrant, and that he deserves to have his reputation be ruined. So I think it is safe to say that you don't need to be a legal expert to know that Dan Schneider is going to lose this, and that he's further making Quiet on Set actually look good. So I just want to go and put my piece onto this because honestly, yeah, Dan Schneider is ready to go, and let's just say he is really inflating his L. Alright, so with that said, now I want to go into the chat wall, and I like to ask, what do you all think about this entire lawsuit? What do you think about Dan Schneider's actions of trying to file a defamation lawsuit on Quiet on Set? Let me know what you think. Well, let's see now. Dirty Dan, the foot fetish Schneider, is really going as far by suing the producers of Quiet on Set to claim that he was in the wrong, right? The answer for his future is outlook not so good. I can't believe Schneider would do this despite confirming what the documentary said is true. If his end goal is to stay relevant to the public and not admit that he was wrong, then he's going to lose to the court 100%. Sorry, Dirty Dan, but you're going to get your butt whooped altogether. Exactly. So, wait, what was the point of that fake apology video? I'm honestly not shocked Dan Schneider would try something like this. Everything the documentary explained is true, and it honestly reflects how much of a liar he is, and he deserves this kind of karma, and it still doesn't change that he and Nickelodeon enabled that toxic behavior during the making of those shows. Exactly, and that's the thing with Dan Schneider, is that the reason why he made that apology video is to go and escape accountability. He was hoping that just by saying he's sorry, nobody would view him as the bad guy and just focus on the actual child sexual predators. But obviously, it did not work, so he's desperately going into plan B, which is to go and attack Quiet on Set and the producers and try to make them look bad so that he can reclaim some credibility himself. Let's see now. Man, this has been a really bad year for Nickelodeon, with them trying to revive Fairly Odd Parents again, Paramount in major jeopardy if they don't decide to merge with another company, and Dan Schneider's reputation going down the major toilet, where he is sinking so low that his attempts to apologize have just given him no more chance of climbing out over that toilet ever again. Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see. I don't believe a darn thing Dan Schneider says. I hope he loses badly. As a producer, he has a lot more power than most of the people on set. To downplay as being a bad leader in his early career, Dan could have done more to protect the most vulnerable people on set. He didn't. He protected people like he liked and took advantage of people who would be too scared to fight back. Just because he didn't commit to the worst acts doesn't change the fact that he did know and didn't do creepy and gross things. Exactly, man. If you want to be a bad leader, then actually own up to it. Don't commit stupid actions like making an obvious fake manufactured video where you would apologize or try to do a defamation lawsuit. If you want to own up to it, actually own up to it. Be a real freaking man for once, Dan. Other than fantasizing about 12-year-old foot so that you can fetishize or whatever. Well, anyways, I remember watching Schneider's bakery show when I was in my teens. Eventually, I stopped watching them around 2021 because of my lack of interest. After watching Quiet on Set, I don't think I can ever watch them again. I hope Schneider loses the lawsuit because of his actions coming to light. I hope Schneider will go to prison like Harvey Weinstein, although I doubt that. Yeah, I think that might be too much to ask if he would go to prison. At the most, it's just really, it's just he's going to lose the court of public opinion. It's just really, I don't think he's going to be in jail, but it's just, it's his reputation that's really going to go down the drain. That's really the best that you can ask for. Let's see now. Oh, dirty Dan. He's pretty much blasting his own foot with an atom bomb. This whole lawsuit just shows that Dan has done the most idiotic move ever. I am definitely on the documentary side, since what Dan did was just disgusting and misogynistic. His apology is very unacceptable. I just hope he'll lose this entire lawsuit. This man should be in prison for his predatory actions. All right, let's see what else we have here. I think I might read 2 more comments and then we'll be done with this episode. Nah, Dan, we all know what you did. Don't try to hide the fact of how you treated the actors, because everything the docuseries said about you is true. He has no chance at winning this lawsuit, and he deserves to face the consequences of his actions. All right, let's see now. What is there more to say? He made an apology and now he's suing them. Basically, he's filling the fire with gas. Even if I was naive at the time, Schneider couldn't be any more as a creep than it was in his works. And Jeanette McCurdy is a true heroine of the story. Things couldn't be any more sad that you kind of wish for the Me Too movement would have been back in the 90s than they did now. If he meets a falling tower, I'm sure he'll have that mark to have no one at his funeral. Yeah, I think it is safe to say, I don't even have to make a poll for this. I think it is safe to say that nobody is on team Schneider now.